Hello everyone, welcome to my class. In the previous class, we are going to discuss about the methods of electrification, right? So, and we have seen that methods of electrification: friction, conduction, and induction. And during the induction, the process of charging a single body using induction method. There we got one concept known as earthing, or it is also called as grounding. So we'll little bit revise that concept and we will move towards the next concept, right? Yes. So in induction process, charging a uncharged body, we have done with the two bodies simultaneously and one body at a time, right? So during two body at a time simultaneously, there is no problem in that. But here in charging a single body, single uncharged body, what is the concept we got here? Earthing, right? See here, because of this heavily positively charged body, this body, all the positive charges accumulated near this heavily charged body, and all the negative charges get repelled by this negative, and they are attracted, they are accumulated on the other side of the body, right? So now you don't want these electrons. Now you don't want these electrons. So what you have to do? If you don't want these electrons, you have to earth it. You have to ground it, such that I will ground now. So once this part is grounded, what happens? If the excess of electrons are there, those electrons will come out from the body and they move to the ground, such that the electrons are moving towards the ground. The electrons start moving towards the ground, and we know that when a body leaves or when electron comes out from the body, it will produce a positive charge. So one electron come outside, there will be one positive charge developed. One electron come outside, another positive charge will be developed. Another electron comes out, another positive charge developed, such that all the electrons will come out from the body, right? So if excess of electrons are there, if you earth or grounded, the electrons will come from the body to earth. Correct? Now we'll understand one more concept here. If suppose the heavily charged body is positive, such that all the negative charges are attracted towards this heavily charged body, and all the positive charges body will be acquired at the other surface. Now you want to remove this positive charge, but you cannot remove the positive charge, such that what you have to do? So when you earth this part, at that time positive charges will not move to the earth. At that time what happens? Electrons will move from the earth to the body. From the earth to the body. This arrow mark is very important. If excess of electrons are there, arrow mark see that. From where to where it is moving? It is moving from body to earth. If deficient of electrons are there, nothing but positive charge you want to remove. Such that when you ground or earth, what happens? Electrons will move from earth to body. That is this direction. And what happens when the electrons move from earth to body? They will combine with each positive charge and they will nullify that. That is neutral, right? So one positive and negative become neutral. One positive and negative become neutral. Such that these charges will come out, nullified. Such that later that if you remove this charged body, the body will remain only what here? Here electrons gone means only positive charge will be remain. The body will remain positive charge. Here all the positive charges are removed, then this heavily positive charges are removed means only negative charge will be remaining. So this is a process. So this process is called as what? Earthing or grounding. Then how we define this earthing or grounding? That is the process of sharing of electrons between body and earth. This is called earthing or grounding. Here the one important thing which you have to remember is that if body has excess of electron, then the electrons move from body to earth. If a body has excess of positive charge, and if you ground, the electrons will move from earth to body. This is the sharing of electrons between body and earth. That process is called earthing or grounding, right? Yes. Now we will move towards the next concept, that is gold leaf electroscope. It is a very sensitive device which is used to detect the charge on a body, right? So what is gold leaf electroscope? The first point about this one we can write is it is a very sensitive device used to detect charge on a body, whether a body has a charge or not. If it is there, which kind of charge, type of charge also we can find out. How that I in the working principle of this gold leaf electroscope I'll explain you, right? So next we will talk about its construction. What it has, right? So it is constructed in a it is constructed in a glass bottle. This is glass, right? This is a glass bottle, right? In which we are using one metallic rod. The blue color what I have drawn here, this is a metallic rod, right? And this metallic rod held inside the glass bottle with the help of rubber cork at the neck of the glass. This is the neck of the glass where rubber cork is placed. With the help of this rubber cork, this metallic rod is suspended inside the glass bottle. Now, at the bottom of the glass bottle, there will be two thin gold leaves. Two thin gold leaves or gold foils, we can say that. And these two gold foils are positively charged. And they are very sensitive for the electrostatic force. Understand? They are very sensitive for electrostatic force. That's why we are using L1 gold leaves. Okay, and then metallic bob which is suspended which is placed at the top of this metallic rod. Metallic bob is placed at the top of this metallic rod. This is the construction of gold leaf electroscope, right? So now we'll move towards the working procedure, how it works. There is a body which I want to check whether the charge is there or not, that body. So that body has to be making contact with this metallic bob. Now this body, I want to check whether this body has charge or not. I want to check this one. Okay. Now that body I have to make in contact with the metal bob. If suppose when I contact this body with the metal bob, and whatever the charges are there that flow through the metallic rod to the gold leaves, suppose the gold leaves diverge, what is the indication of that? Why these gold leaves have to diverge? These two already positive charge. If still more positive charge accumulate on these leaves, they start diverging because number of positive charge will be depositing on the gold leaves will be more. So more the charges, positive charge, they will diverge. The angle between these two leaves start increasing, they will diverge. If this is gold leaves are diverging, which means that this body has positive charge. So we'll identify that based on the diverging or converging of a thin gold leaf, we can identify charge on a body, right? If suppose now, if body has negative charge and those negative charge flow through the metallic rod and reach the gold leaf, and those negative charge deposit on the gold leaf such that they start decreasing the positive charge which are present on the gold leaf, such that positive charges decreasing means what? The negative charge increasing over there, so, right? So they start diverging. They start, not diverging, they start converging. The angle between those two gold leaves start converging, decreasing. If the angle between this gold leaves start decreasing, which indicates that the body has negative charge. So this is a very important point here, correct? So what is the working process? When you touch the body which you want to identify whether the charge is there or not, that body when you make in contact with the metal bob, the same charges flow through the rod to the gold leaves. If gold leaves diverge, which indicates that positive charge on the body, and if the gold leaves converge, it indicates that negative charge on the body. So this is the working process of gold leaf electroscope. It's a very sensitive device and which is used to detect the charge on a body. next we will move towards a very important concept, that is Coulomb's law in electrostatics. ये जो Coulomb's law है very important है. It's a very important concept in electrostatics, right? Yes. So to understand this Coulomb's law, let us consider two charges. This is the one charge and this is another charge, right? So the first charge, I'll say it is Q1 and the another charge say Q2, and these two are separated by some distance, say R. These two are separated by some distance, say R, and these two are placed in air. Where these two are placed? In air. Understand? What I consider? Two charges Q1 and Q2 which are separated by distance R and placed in air. Now there are two charges are there, means they will have a force. They exert force on each other. Which force they exert? Whether they exert attractive force, whether they exert repulsive force, we don't know, because we don't know the polarity of the charges first. If you know the polarity, then we can say that it is attractive or repulsive. So I consider first plus Q1 is there and plus Q2 is there. Plus Q2 is there. Now which kind of force will be there between those two charges? There will be a repulsive force, because both are having the same kind of charge. If same kind of charges are there, they will get repelled. Now if I consider minus and minus, negative and negative, negative charge and negative charge, again which force will exert there? Again there will be a repulsive force, because negative will exert repulsive force, right? Similar kind of charge repels. If suppose Q1 is positive, Q2 is negative, or Q1 is negative, Q2 is positive, which means they attract, right? So whether the force is attractive or repulsive completely depends upon the polarity of the charge. Polarity of the charge. What is the polarity of the charge Q1? It may be positive or negative. What is the polarity of the charge Q2? It may be positive or negative. If suppose both are positive, both are negative, there will be a repulsive force. If one is positive, another is negative, there will be an attractive force. So that's why I say that the force of attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges, the force of attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges, that is F. That is F, which is directly proportional to product of magnitude of two charges. Product of magnitude of two charges, and inversely proportional to, that force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between the two charges. Square of the distance between the two charges, right? So then how you state here? The same these equations should I write in the statements. These two equations I should express in the form of statement. See how I am going to write here, right? Coulomb's law, right? The force of attraction or repulsion between 2 point charges, is directly proportional to product of magnitude of two charges and inversely proportional to square of the distance between the two charges. Square of the distance between the two charges. Distance between the two charges. This is the statement of Coulomb's law in electrostatics. Right? How I wrote this one is completely based on this equation. If you remember this one, easily you can write this statement. No need to by heart. The force of attraction or repulsion. It depends on what? It depends upon the polarity of the charges. And directly proportional to, that force is directly proportional to product of magnitude of two charges and inversely proportional to square of the distance between the two charges. If you remember these two equations, this statement can be written very easily. Understand? No need to by heart, no need to struggle. Just you have to remember those two equations and you should know how to write that equation in terms of statements. Now, from these two equations, what I do, I combine both the equations. F is directly proportional to Q1 into Q2 upon R square. You can ask one question here that why you have taken magnitude, correct? Why you have taken magnitude? Because see here, it may be positive or negative, no. So, but force does not depend upon the polarity. It depends only on the magnitude. Hence, we don't take here the sign of the charges, whether it is positive or negative. If you take mod of that, if you take the magnitude of that, it will always be a positive only, right? So, force is always in terms of positive values, not in negative, right? So, that's why we have taken the magnitude, right? Yes, the force is directly proportional to Q1 into Q2 divided by R square. Now, when you remove this proportionality constant, some constant you will get there. That constant is 1 by 4 pi epsilon. First I will write here epsilon, right? What is epsilon? Epsilon is the permittivity of a medium, right? So now it is equal to Q1 into Q2 upon R square, correct? Now what I do next? So epsilon is nothing but epsilon naught into epsilon r, where epsilon is the permittivity. What is epsilon? Permittivity. Permittivity means it is the ability of a medium to allow the electric field lines to pass through them. That is called permittivity of a medium. Now it is next absolute permittivity. Epsilon naught is what? Absolute permittivity. This is absolute permittivity. And epsilon r is relative permittivity. What is epsilon r? Is relative permittivity. Relative permittivity. Relative permittivity. Now next what I have to do? I have to substitute in this epsilon. I have to substitute this epsilon naught into epsilon r, correct? Such that the equation becomes the force, electrostatic force, is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into epsilon r, Q1 into Q2 upon r square, correct? But what is epsilon r? Relative permittivity for air. Epsilon r for air is 1. Epsilon r for air is how much? Epsilon r for air is 1. Such that the equation becomes what? The equation becomes F is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 into Q2 upon R square. Now, I know pi value and we have epsilon naught value, right? So, if I substitute these values, I'll get one value. See there, 1 by 4 into pi value means 3.142 into epsilon value is 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. If you calculate this one value, you will get 9 into 10 to the power of 9. You get what? 9 into 10 to the power of 9 value. Then I can substitute in this equation F is equals to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into Q1 into Q2 upon R square. This is your final expression for Coulomb's law, and the SI unit for Coulomb's law here Newton. The SI unit for Coulomb force. SI unit for Coulomb force is how much? Newton. Clear? So this is the Coulomb's law in electrostatics. Very, very important. The question will be asked like this. State Coulomb's law in electrostatic. Only statement you have to write. This much. No anything. But if they ask you, state and explain Coulomb's law in electrostatics, this is for 3 marks. Statement is 1 mark. State and explain is for 3 marks. And until here you have to write it. So this is Coulomb's law in electrostatics. Next, we will understand the limitations of Coulomb's law. What are the limitations of Coulomb's law? The first limitation is that it is applicable only for point charges. It is applicable only for point charges. Point charge का मतलब क्या है? What is the meaning of point charge? See here, there are 2 charges are there, one charge and another charge. See the size of the charge. The size of the charge is very small compared to the distance between the 2 charges. Understand? The size of the charge is very small compared to the distance between the 2 charges. They are called point charges. I'll repeat one more time. The size of the charge is very small compared to the distance between the 2 charges. Then that charge is called point charge. For the electrostatic force can be applicable only for this kind of point charges. That is first limitation. Second one, it is applicable only if the distance between the 2 charges is greater than 10 raised to minus 15 meter. So you know this, what is the 10 raised to minus 15 meter, which is the size of the nucleus. So electrostatic force cannot be applicable in the nucleus. Only outside the nucleus. Electrostatic force is between electrons which are in the orbit and the protons which are present in the nucleus. But within the nucleus, proton and proton, they will not have an electrostatic force. Understand? They will not have an electrostatic force. They have a nuclear force. Such that within the nucleus, this Coulomb's law cannot be applicable. Understand? Within the nucleus, Coulomb's law cannot be applicable. If you want to apply Coulomb's law, the distance must be greater than 10 raised to minus 15 meter, which is outside the nucleus. We can apply the Coulomb's law. So these two are the limitations of Coulomb's law. Next, we can study. We are studying SI unit of charge. SI unit of charge. And we know that what is the SI unit of charge? The SI unit of charge is Coulomb. Coulomb. This is Coulomb. Right? Now define 1 Coulomb. 1 Coulomb of charge define. Like how we are going to define 1 Coulomb of charge. So I can write here, define 1 Coulomb of charge. This will be a 1 mark question. Define 1 Coulomb of charge. So what is 1 Coulomb of charge? If 2 unit positive charges, see what I am telling here, 2 unit positive charges. Unit positive charges means unit means 1. Unit positive charge only I am telling, that is plus 1 Coulomb of charge. And here also plus 1 Coulomb of charge is placed. The distance between the 2 charges is 1 meter. The distance between the 2 charges is 1 meter. And these 2 charges experiencing a force of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton. Then these 2 charges are said to be 1 Coulomb of charge. What? 2 unit positive charges separated by distance of 1 meter and experiencing a force of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton. Then these 2 charges are said to be 1 Coulomb of charge. This is a definition of 1 Coulomb of charge. So how we can write this one? 2 unit positive charges separated by 1 meter and experiences force of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton, then the charges are said to be, to be 1 Coulomb. 1 coulomb of charge. So this is the standard definition of 1 coulomb.